Yeah, we'll still have class. We'll have sessions other than that. And during the day, after Fajr, after Asr, and these kind of things. The timings change up.
Well, like meetings.
It'll change up the times. Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We're doing the fiqh of zakat, and zakat itself is one of the pillars of Islam. Why is zakah connected to the month of Ramadan? Because it's a 5 pillar of Islam. Any other reason? It's Nadia. Huh? No, it's all. Huh? Yeah, very good. So the reason why a lot of people pay zakat in the month of Ramadan is because they get more blessings for every good deed that they do. And every third act that you do, you get like 70 times plus. 70 is the lowest amount, and it could go to hundreds and thousands of times more reward when you do something in the month of Ramadan. In fact, you should go for Umrah in the month of Ramadan. Right? If you go for Umrah in the month of Ramadan, you get the blessings of a Hajj. Just by going and doing an act of ibadah in the month of Ramadan, it increases. So may Allah all take us all for Umrah in the month of Ramadan. Ameen. Okay. I really want to go, but mashallah, may Allah make it happen. As a Jamaat, yeah. Okay, summary of the topics. We'll talk a little bit about zakat itself, calculation principles, zakat assets, deductible liabilities, zakat distribution, zakat payment, and principles, right? Zakat payment principles. One of the things of zakat we should appreciate is that zakat itself is actually one of the economical and financial aspects of our Islam. There are others, but it is one of those that has been it has been inserted within the Sharia practice and your worship, and is also part of economics, part of our realities of finance, realities of helping, strengthening, and also most definitely the spiritual part of it, which is the cleansing of your wealth, obviously, firstly, the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and all the different things, right? I did in one of the first 2 sessions talk a little bit about zakat, and zakat, the word comes from tazkiyah. And tazkiyah means, anyone remember what tazkiyah means? Tazkiyah. Anybody have their notes still? Tazkiyah, the first 2 sessions. Tazkiyah is a really important word, and it's always good to learn these terminologies because they stand for really big, important aspects or foundations of our Islam. So, like, if you don't know what you're talking about when somebody says tazkiyah, you kind of like lose a whole portion of your practice as a believer. So that's why I keep 2 terminologies, because I could use another word that is in English, but a terminology in Arabic stands for a whole realm of practice that if you did not learn about the practice, you wouldn't follow it. So a similar one was ihsan, right? I spoke about ihsan as well. And ihsan itself, where's Zaki? Tell them come. So ihsan itself is a word, but it has a very big meaning, and it's like a mountain of explanation, but a mountain of a practice as a believer, that when you do that, you'll become a really solid person, solid believer, a person who has really good connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So ihsan, what ihsan mean? Anybody? Excellence. Yeah. But okay, so that's a translation that we can use, but in its terminology in Sharia and Islam, it means something deeper, right? Not just excellence, but what about excellence? أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه وإن لم تراه فإنه يراك. Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, Ihsan is that you worship Allah like you can see Him. And if you cannot see Him, then He can see you. So what is that concept? It means that you're fully excellent in every affair that you do. You are trying to achieve excellence when you sit here. You're trying to achieve excellence when you're eating. You're trying to achieve excellence when you're praying. You're trying to achieve excellence when you're giving zakah. You're trying to achieve excellence when you're walking down the road. So in every moment of your life, you're trying to achieve perfection in it. So that is the essence of a believer, the spiritual aspect of a believer. He's always connected to his Lord and his spirituality. So that's ihsan. Tazkiyah, which the word zakah comes from. Zakah comes from the word tazkiyah, and tazkiyah means purification. Right? So tazkiyah is purification, and tazkiyah itself is a whole science of how to purify yourself as a person to make sure that all of your actions have that quality of ihsan. So tazkiyah is a cleansing process. So when a person wants to go and wash his car, he has to the clean car is like the ihsan. You have a really clean, spotless car. And when we talk cleaning the car, I'm not washing the car, I'm talking about detailed cleaning. So reviving a car that has 10 years to its factory level, prime factory level, taking a 10-year-old car, because we all have age to us, we all have experience to us, we all have actions to us. So taking that 10-year car or 20-year car and restoring it to its original form is what you call the final product, is what you reach the state of ihsan. But the method of doing it and the detailing that it entails is with the tazkiyah. How to clean. Have you ever tried getting people to wash your car, and then they take the cloth full of all the stones and things from the wash from the bottom first, and then they take it to the top of the car and they scrape up all the car paint? I mean, when I talk about when you want to talk about any subject, right? They have people who know how to wash a car, and they have people who know how to wash a car. You understand what I'm saying there? People can say, well, how hard is it to wash a car? Washing a car is just throwing the water in the car, throwing some soap and soaping it down. What kind of what do you call this, products do you use on your car? So a person who don't know how to wash a car but can do the action of washing the car, he will just throw water, one by a squeezy from the supermarket, or take breeze from the powder from the house, right? They'll throw water, they'll take it, they'll pick up a cloth, one of them cheap cloths, the white, the little the cloth, like not even microfiber. They'll use like a one of those blue cloths that barely has one of the really thin ones, and then they'll start washing their car. Right? Now, if somebody says that is washing your car, you'll say, okay, I understand what you're saying. And then when you go take the same car by a professional detailer, and then he charges you $3,000 to go and detail your car, or if you want a full-on restoration car, and then he tells you, $5,000 and $10,000 to restore your car fully. I'm not talking about painting the car, I'm talking about restoring it to its original factory. Or even it costing as much as the car cost, right? And you say, well, wait, this man doing the same thing and this man doing the same thing. No, the profession, you're not understanding the professional aspect of it. So this is the same thing. Tazkiyah is that professional detailer doing everything properly. So tazkiyah is that process that takes you to the final product, which is the clean car. And now a person who is unaware, he will say that car looks clean and that car looks clean. But the professional, the one who has his tazkiyah done, who has ihsan within him, who is a professional person of spirituality, he will say, you know what? There's what do you call, a difference from the difference between the heavens and the earth. Difference between that car and that car. So that's what I'm saying. This is what we learn about Deen and Islam. The more you delve into the subject matters, the more you realize how perfection is found, is met. Now, I'm sure the guys would appreciate that detailing example. Sisters, I hope you get a little bit of detailing inside. Right? But the bottom line is, you can tell there's a big difference. So sometimes people just want to wash my car, and the reality is they damage your car by just washing your car. And now I don't really bother about it because when it reaches a certain point, you don't have to worry. There's enough marks on the car, there's enough scrapes on the car. Last week somebody threw a board on the car, make an accident and scrape the car again. But mashallah, because at that time you realize I hear what? The car itself, yeah, taking it from point A to point B. Let me leave it just so. Okay, moving forward. We have a lot to talk about today, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed zakah as one of the third pillars of Islam, right? One of the interlinking things that you will hear with zakat when it comes to this topic of zakat is always mentioned with salah. So how important salah is in the life of a believer, a Muslim? Fundamental. It is foundational. If you don't have salah, there's no foundation to your iman, there's no foundation to you as a Muslim, you are lacking. You are weak. You are going to falter, you're going to fall down. So if you don't have salah, you don't have deen, really. Okay? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, though, whenever he says, wa aqimus salah, establish your salah, he says, wa atuz zakah, and give your zakah. Right? Now, salah is one of those pinnacle moments. When you go into salah, if you have the full tazkiyah, cleanliness being done, and you reach the state of ihsan, then you will always, salah will always be a spiritual journey that takes you from one stage straight up to the other in moments. Salah is so blessed and so beloved, and it really connects you directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala right away. That's what then you reach to that professional level. Zakah, though, is one of the operational ways to get to Allah from the dynamic of doing something with relation to the people around you. Because you can't give zakah if you don't have someone. So zakah is one of those things that needs a society to operate. So it's one of those things that connects you to Allah through the usage of people, through the usage of society. If you didn't have that, if you didn't have people, if you didn't have a society around you, if you did not have deserving recipients of zakah, you would not be able to fulfill your ibadah. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, zakah, establish your salah and also establish your zakah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually encompassing your spiritual life and your societal life together in that command. Make sure when you're working on your spiritual aspect, it is also in tandem with your societal aspect as well. And that's why a Muslim is never a person who's isolated. So you can't be isolated as a believer. You have to be, connecting everything together, and they do all intermingle, and mesh together. All right, khair. Okay, in terms of payment, zakah refers to an obligatory payment of 2.5 on qualifying zakatable wealth annually. So that one statement could take us half an hour to explain. When we talk about zakah, it's quite simple in explanation. Your zakah is basically taking out 2.5% on, and look at the words now, qualifying zakatable wealth annually. So 3 different points there, and each one of those points actually have an understanding of how to apply them. So qualifying zakatable wealth annually. So it's very mathematical and very much dollars and cents here now. And that's one of the beautiful aspects of Deen. It actually puts a practical aspect in place. And you see how each one of us could count dollars and cents? How much dollars I have left? How much money in your account? How much you pay for this? How much deal I'm getting? How much discount I'm getting? And isn't that part of your practical life?
I see it.
How much you're saving? How much you're making? How much that's in fact that does consume a big portion of your life. In fact, you make decisions based on these things, figures. So many decisions on a daily basis is made just on figures. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in zakat is so practical and so societal that he's saying, hey, figures matters in my deen as well. I want to start checking. I want to start calculating. I want to start investing. I want to start understanding this process. So isn't that something to appreciate though? Isn't that something beautiful that, okay, Islam is not some dry ritual that, you do, but it has a very practical aspect of its essence. Okay, every practice in Islam, there's untimely connects us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We know this. Each Islamic practice plays an important role in the practice, and zakat brings order to the chaos in the economy, markets, and society, allowing the economy and all its participants to recognize Allah. I saw a study recently. Make a guess how much money is spent in zakat in England every year. Just from a study, studies itself is not fully accurate, but wherever you can get data from, it gives you an understanding of what takes place. In Trinidad, we obviously don't have much studies happening, and even nationally don't have. So forget the Islamic world and Islamic countries. I mean, the Muslims in the country. How are we going to get a study done? Once I was doing I'll just get a little joke on this matter, right? Once I was doing a little study, personal study on zakat itself, because I was doing a feasibility study on zakat. I wanted to do my own personal one with the general personal contacts that I may have. So one brother replied to me, so it was anonymous, so is asking a questionnaire and you just have to answer. What is your income? What is the amount of money you would generally pay in zakat? Do you calculate it and then pay throughout the year, or do you pay one time? So general questions of what the practice of the believers are. And I did have like about at least 100 people reply to me. So it was a good number to get some type of data from. But one person replied, how can you ask me those questions? Anonymously, it was anonymous. They said, how can you ask me those questions? Those are very personal questions, and that's between me and my Lord. I was like, brother, it's still going to be anonymous. You could apply, you could reply to me 100 times, I still wouldn't know it's you. I still wouldn't know it's you, right? But the point I'm making is I want to understand how the believers interact with their ibadah so I can have data. So anyway, that was a little story there. The guy was really offended. I was asking him some basic data so I could have a little bit of understanding of what's happening in the practice. So anyway, in England, how much money do you think is spent in zakat? Now, let me give you a little statistics. In England, the Muslims have risen to about, let me say, average of 5% of the Muslim population now. It was about 2% in the last maybe 15 years, and it's gone up to about let's say 4%, around 4 to 5%. So they're still under us as a percentage. And I should I give all the GDPs and things to make sense? Like how much money does be? Anyway, give me a figure now. Give me a figure. What do you think?
Like 500,000.
500,000?
Billion.
It'll be the billions, yeah. It is in the billions. How much billions do you think? 100 million pounds? 10 million?
Is it in billion?
10 billion? Good. Any other?
Yeah,
Yeah, how much zakat is collected and distributed to? What's the average zakat amounts? Okay, so the average zakat amount, and this is in pounds, right? So this is, okay, when we say TT, you'll have to put next zero. So let me say it in TT then. 4,500 billion pounds. 4,500 billion pounds. I mean, that's Trinidad by how much times? Our annual budget is like how much? Budget? 60 billion dollars. Trinidad budget. So there's 450,000, no, 4,500 billion pounds. TT. So 400 is really 450 billion pounds, pound dollars, right? So that type of wealth Don't you think that makes a very big impact in people's lives? Look at the kind of money that you're talking about. That is enormous, as a full countries sometimes spending in so many different ways. Now, that being said, in Trinidad and Tobago, I know personal people that I know myself, that I have helped with their zakat affairs, and their zakat bill that they have to pay on a yearly basis. Give me average, throw it out, couple of $1 million, right? So when a person has to pay, he alone has to pay his $2.5 million in the end of the 2.5% of zakat, right? He has to take out $4 and $5 million from his wealth to pay his zakat. So you understand what Allah has blessed him with, right? $4 or $5 million he has to take out as zakat, mandatory. Imagine I tell all of us here that every year I wanted to take out $5 million to give away to the recipients of zakat. You'll be like, well, $4 or $5 million. I wish I could see $4 or $5 million, right? Forget spending it every year. So isn't that a very big test for a person too who have wealth? Because regardless of how much wealth you have, right? You just go and spend $1 million on a car. So if you buy cars at that level, right, then you could buy 4 or 5 cars. In fact, some cars you could spend $2 million and $3 million on a car. So every year you could buy $1 million cars. Now, is that even practical for a person who has that kind of wealth to go and spend that on them poor people? You know how it happens, right? Shaitan messes you up so badly that now zakat itself becomes, wait. You won't be them people who causing all that trouble, them backing out people in the masjid, like these kind of thoughts come to people, subhanAllah. So this is how it's such a big ibadah. Think about it now. And a man who now gets a little bit of money in his hand, right? A woman who now gets a salary and she's like, you know what? Really, I have to take out the next I have to take out $250 from my paycheck and give it out. I barely trying to make my bills properly done, these kind of things. So it is a real ibadah, and it is function on worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you do that, you gain Allah's pleasure, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes happy with you. And if you don't do that, Allah's wrath comes upon you and you're going to be punished. Now, that being said, that's why every single year it's an obligation. It's a test year every year, back again. Let me see what you're gonna do now. Let me see what you're gonna do now. And you know what's beautiful? Allah's test is Allah's test, right? Allah's salah comes every day, 5 times a day. But Allah's zakat only comes once a year. Because He knows the connection we have with wealth as well. So He's only testing you once a year. If you pass that test, mashallah. If you don't, you will feel the brunt of it. So this is the importance and the beautiful tazkiyah that takes place when a person really takes out his wealth and spends. Hey, pass this around now, this one. Yeah, cool. Okay, moving forward, zakat finances the growth of faith and the faithful. So what happens is, one, when you spend it, your iman increases. Because as I said, a millionaire, a multimillionaire, when he takes out zakat and he gives $4 million in zakat, he must have iman to do so. He must fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do so. Because if you can take out $4 and $5 million for zakat to be paid, and you know this coming back next year again, he must believe in Allah on the last day. So you get testification of his faith. Similarly, with the zakat, it helps people who want to be in iman and belief. He's like, look, whole year I wasn't able to do something. Allah's blessed me with somebody coming and helping me solve this problem that I have, this financial problem, alleviating some of my debts, helping me with building my house up, giving me a place to stay. There's something happens in the month of Ramadan. People are generous and they help. Zakat is a human capital fund which seeks to empower others, individuals. Zakat guarantees every struggling person a baseline provision and supports to give them more opportunity to break out of the cycle of poverty. So one of the societal benefits of zakat, it has a structure to it. It's not just like anybody who have wealth, you have to pay. Or, this young boy just come out and he do a little PJ there and he do a small job, he has to pay now. Or somebody who um just got some wealth in their hand, they have to pay now. Or, for example, somebody that's been poor for their whole life and right away they didn't have enough. And for example, some inheritance happened and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them with a substantial amount of money, and right away he has to pay. It doesn't work like that. Allah has a very beautiful system that it works with, and only that types of ways, the structures, when you follow it, then zakat is fulfilled. Only that time. Really amazing, really amazing. It's beautiful, and the more you think about it, it's Allah, just subhanallah, Allah. So what I'm saying about this is there's a baseline that takes place. So the people who are lower than that baseline, they don't have to worry about zakat. They don't have to pay zakat. They can receive zakat. And when Allah puts you above the baseline, then that means that He has blessed you. Be grateful for your blessing. Now pay your zakat and bless those people who are under the baseline. So the baseline, it differentiates the two categories of people that allows benefit to one and benefit to the other with fulfilling the ibadah. Zakat is a social contract between communities to look after one another and to grow together. So some of the quick benefits of zakat, as you can see that, I want to read after me. All right, what's the first point? Subservience to Allah. Okay, who is your standard one teacher? All right, go ahead. Next one. Next point, Jamil. Jamil. Oh.
Zakat is a gratitude for the blessings of one.
Right. Third.
Gratification of the soul.
All right. So we talked about all these things, right? Zakat is a means to multiply one's reward for the hereafter. Zakat is to sympathize and show compassion for the less fortunate. Zakat is a means to bless and purify one's wealth and make it full of barakah. What's the interesting thing about zakat now? When you hear it from an ibadah point of view and all the benefits and all of the merits and the virtues and so on, everybody now will start craving, boy, I want to be able to pay zakat. I want to be able to have a good financial situation, ability, so I can reap from the benefits of paying zakat. And what happens is right away, that's why the mindset of deen shifts us to become better individuals. So if you feel that receiving was a glory, or receiving zakat was something good, when you realize what Allah gives you from giving, then you say, yeah, what? Let me switch that a little bit down. Let me be the one giving. I would love to be given. I would love to have a lot of wealth so I can give. I want to give anybody who needs. I want to uplift people. I want to become a contributor to society. So do you see how the deen itself have shifted the Muslim? Right? Now what happens is, like, for example, in Trinidad, we have this thing that we call dependency syndrome. Right? I mean, it's all over the world too, but it's a discussion that you can have in Trinidad. What is dependency syndrome? Because people would say that is part of what happens in the mindsets of people in Trinidad and Tobago for their betterment, as opposed to their to their harm, self-harming. Like when the carnival culture comes up, they'll spend on so much things on carnival and fetting and drinking and alcohol. I'm talking about country-wise, national-wise. And if they were to have a good mindset towards money, they would say, no, those things are wasteful for my financial situation. I'm not going to spend money there. I'm going to use it to invest in some benefit. So the whole concept itself, and it comes from all colonial days and all these different things you can talk about. But the point is, Islam itself changes your mindset right away. So you don't have to go through all this discussion to figure out what is the right thing and the mindset to have. Islam fixed that for you right away. Won't you want to be a yadul ulya khayrun min yadis sufla? Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says the hand that gives is better than the hand that receives. So straight away a man will say, you know what? I don't want to be someone who wants to receive, you know. I mean, khair if I need and Allah place a situation where I will get, then I can understand, I will take, and I'll be grateful for the bounty of Allah. But I rather be that person who gives. I want to do that. Right, so right away, Deen is the ultimate success blueprint. For the recipient, zakat is to alleviate poverty and the need of the needy. Zakat removes any ill feelings and spiritual diseases in the needy, such as jealousy, rancor, or malice against those who have wealth. So naturally, too, when somebody then gets zakat, he will then look at the rich person, or the person who is giving in a sense of compassion, not hatred, not so that self helps with society. In Trinidad, what was it discussions right now on social media and stuff when it comes to a national wealthy organization or company? What was it talk right now on the ground? KFC boycotted KFC and the 1%, and talking about the whole prestige holdings and the kind of money that they're making off people. And where that come from a comment and all these kind of things, and boycott. Okay. So what happens there is right away there's an ill feeling because of the societal disconnect. Right? But if society was building and there was working cohesion, then even for example, prestige holdings, nobody would complain about prestige holdings making a lot of money when they have shares in prestige holdings. Prestige holdings at that time becomes, hey, you're like, continue making money because I get more money when you make more money. Right? The person who will complain is that person who don't have any shares in prestige holdings and will, they always taking money, and you're feeling that disgust. So what I'm saying is when there's a connection, then no problem. Or they go ahead and do what they have to do. Or they make all their money, Allah has blessed us. We'll do what we have to do, and we'll have patience and persevere. There's a connection. So this is what zakat as well gives us. So that's just an example. I'm not talking about the whole KFC thing, whether to boycott or not boycott, but we were boycotting because of another reason before that. So mashallah, it still falls in line. Zakat is there to allow the recipient to survive and get free access to basic necessities. And for society, I've talked about all these things already. Okay, let's go to a new topic. Time is against us. I want to just at least touch on the principles, and then inshallah, maybe if you want further clarification on any of these things, you can contact me and we can talk about it as well, inshallah. Right? Conditions for zakat obligation. So when it comes to calculation, there's actually some laws that helps you start that process of calculating and whether or not you have to pay and how to pay and the process. When you go to accounting, there's systems that you use, like what? Accounting.
No,
Methodologies. Okay, studies. Like ACCA and so on. No, ACCA. You should learn about that, right? ACCA, right? Conditions for zakat always. Okay. So first of all, you have to be a Muslim. You have to reach the adolescence. So you become balig. According to the Hanafi madhab, the other madhahib, once you have wealth above the nisab, then you have to pay. And the third thing is the mental capacity. So conditions means is prerequisites. You have a what's that pre-interview? What's that called? Not the pre-interview, before the actual interview. So conditions. Everybody know conditions mean, yeah? So before you can even apply, you have to have some basic things. Yeah, if you don't have it, then don't apply now because you're not gonna get through. Yeah, wasting everybody's time, right? Second thing is conditions relating to the wealth. So first the payer have to have certain things. Then, okay, is your money good enough to bring to us in this forum? You have to look at this. First, you have to have ownership. Because I can have $1 billion that is not mine. and I'm keeping it. Do I have to pay zakat? No. And as simple as it sounds, I get every year a question. One of the questions is, like this year I got it already. Do I have to pay zakat on the masjid funds? Who owns the masjid funds? Huh? Who's the mosque? Baitullah, this is the house of Allah. You think Allah pays zakat on his well, I mean, all wealth is Allah's wealth, but the point is, that's fi sabilillah, that's Allah's. Right? The people who have the access to the accounts are the mutawalli. They are the ones who are responsible for accounting for that wealth, but it's not their wealth. Right. Similarly with yeah.
Right? And they use their savings as the security
Yeah.
for your loan.
Yeah. So what happens is I'll talk about that too, right? Yes and no. Yes, in the sense of you may still have to pay, but then you look at your assets at the same time, and you look at your liabilities, and then there's an equation to follow, and then you'll know whether or not you have to pay.
For the loan and one of the
So depends, because for example, if a person, although they're doing that, say it's a house loan, now the house is going for sale, and now the house is worth $200,000. So although you have a loan, you have a savings, but now you have a house. So now is the house a zakatable asset? Let me ask that quick question. Now some people's house, because of the rates, cost $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million a house, right? Like you'd think that the house is a simple house. Your house would be costing like $1 million, $2 million. Okay. Point is, do you pay zakat on a house? We have property tax, Huh?
that is what we pay for property.
Okay, so quick answer. A house that you live in does not have zakat. Zakat is not on houses that you live in. But zakat will be houses that you sell. So if you intend to sell it this year, then straight away, if you think, you know what, I fed up with this community, sour too dry. I want to go in a real spicy kind of community that have a little bit more bacchanal and thing and entertainment. Then you want to leave. As soon as you intend that you're going to sell the house, the worth of the entire house comes in your zakat. Right? So if you, for example, want to sell your business and not making, then right away from the intention of selling your entire business, you do an evaluation of that business right away, goes into zakat. So you have to then maybe or maybe not calculate on zakat. So there are other criteria. So let's look at it. Ownership by individuals, sole traders, partners in LLPs, all right, on their shares, shareholders in a privately held companies, beneficiaries of bare trust, which one has access and control over. So even with a company, you may not own a company, but you have shares in a company, and that means that you own a certain percentage of that company. And some people can own up to 50% of a company, then that means it's an asset. And regarding the asset, it depends. Is it ownership? Is it not ownership? So wealth needs to have ownership. Now, sometimes there's shares that you can have in a company which gives you profit, but you have no ownership. You can't claim anything on it. So you don't have that ownership. You just have dividends that comes to you. So different type of shares gives that different benefits, inshallah. So you pay on the income. We'll talk about it. It comes up here. The zakat is not due on wealth for charities, waqf, charitable trust, interest in possession trust, and discretionary trust, as long as benefactors is not a trustee. Second thing is that possession of that wealth, right? Either actual in one's hands or constructive, where one has access or has delegated control to another party, meaning somebody else is maintaining it for him. Or a second point, possessed assets also include assets that are invested, whether locked in or accessible during the investment period. So possession basically is, like for example, somebody steal your property, right? Do you have possession of it? No, you don't have possession of it. So right now, according to you, you don't have any opportunity with your wealth. It's still yours, but it's stolen. So you don't have to pay right now until you can figure out where is the wealth. So possession is something as well The second thing is productive asset. And this is what I was giving an example of with the house. So zakat is only due on assets owned for exchange purposes, like cash. It's for exchange purposes, right? Or by design for trade assets like stock. You know, like for example, if you have a grocery, everything in the grocery there is going to be in your assets for zakat. So that's what you call malinami. So the assets is like cash, receivables. What's receivables? Like rent that comes in, money that you get from shares, anything that comes in as something that you'll have valuable now that you use. Gold and silver. All gold and all silver is considered zakat. Whether or not you're selling it, you're buying it, you're keeping it, you're intending to sell it or not, whatever you have, that actual gold or silver, because they are ain mal, they are actual wealth and will always remain wealth. It doesn't change. 1 second, let me just finish it. Trade assets and animal, livestock, and crops as well will have zakat. Medicine, yeah. So once it's for trade, yes. If it's for use, no. Personal use. Also, the nisab. When you have all them criteria actually being fulfilled, now you have to check your wealth. Did it reach the amount? What was the nisab this year? He said a gold price and he said a silver price. What's the difference?
The whole morning is about
Well, that's a definite difference.
20 more to.
Two of them being called nisab though. So what all others use? What do you all use? So let me ask you this, right? When you see those figures, silver nisab, gold nisab, what does it mean to you in relation to calculating zakat? No, but them figures on the calendar, we print it on the calendar. What does it mean? All right, what does that mean then?
On the extra.
Anybody else?
The same thing goes with the silver.
Can anybody tell me the gold nisab and the silver nisab? How does that gold nisab and silver nisab matter in you giving zakat? All right, let me give you another scenario then, easier. If I have $50,000 in my bank account right now, do I have to pay zakat? Why I have to pay zakat? Huh? As long as, okay, all right. So if I have $3,000 in my bank account right now, do I have to pay zakat? No. Why no? Under what number? What amount? Under the nisab, but it's in silver. This cash I'm talking about. I'm not talking about gold and silver. I'm talking about I have cash. I don't have no gold and silver too. I just like you. Right. So he's saying, just like you asked, everything have a different value, and for cash will be a different value as opposed to gold and silver. Now, when I ask this question, usually, and I don't ask it so clearly, but nobody is know what you're talking about. And they doesn't know what the gold and silver on the calendars and why everybody telling you gold and silver. Nisab. So anybody else have any other idea? Because nobody got it yet. What if anybody online? Let me see. No chats for them. The nisab, what does that mean? The gold and silver nisab. Okay, the last condition, I'll get to that right away. The last condition is passing of an entire lunar year from the time you start. Not that this thing is really take some time to actually explain. If he just come and give me $50,000 today, and I had $3,000, so now I have $53,000. Do I have how much do I pay zakat on? The 3,000 or the 53,000? Or the 50,000?
$52.
53,000. Yeah? What are you saying? Right, so that's the whole point of the nisab thing. That will help you kind of figure this out, right? Now let me tell you quickly some answers, right? If he gives me 53,000 and I was zakatable, then I will have to pay on 53,000 on the full amount. Not just because he gave me today makes a difference. It doesn't have to pass the full year every time you're getting money. It means when you started off, like this boy here, he now start off saving. He now starting off and he doing a little work and thing. And he's saving. And now he reached $4,000. So he has now reached above the silver nisab. Does he pay zakat or does he not pay zakat? That's where the nisab makes a difference. The nisab is a threshold. And that's why I said, you remember, the upper level have a level and the lower level have a level. The nisab is the level. It separates who can receive and who has to give. That's what nisab does. So now that whole silver and gold is a big question you all have to answer yourselves now. Can you actually accept zakah or can you actually, do you actually have to give zakah? Are you on the upper level or in the lower level? All right, so I'll send you all these slides too. Let me tell you why there's two levels now. At the time of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, this is the fundamental point to understand everything. Time of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, there was two nisabs established by his tongue, by saying it. But the two amounts was the same value. It's like I saying to you all, just say 6.79 TT dollars or US dollar. Anything from that amount you have, then you have to pay zakat. So you go say, okay, well, either you check it in US or you check it in TT, it's the same thing you're saying. So this is what happened at the time of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He said the same thing with the same value. So silver value and gold value was the same. So he said at that time, either 200 dirhams or 20 dinars is worth the same. If you're paying for a cow, you go pay either 20 dinars or you go pay 200 dirhams. It doesn't matter. So that's what happened. Then what happened is in the world of economics, it started separating to big differences in values. Now the silver price has gone down really low and the gold price has gone up really high. So what happens is now you have to choose one. You can't choose it two. Because if you have the $38,000, then you're supposed to, all right, just say you have $37,000, you're under the value and you don't have to pay zakat. And in this one, if you're $4,000, you're over the value and you have to pay zakat. So which one are you? So that's a discussion we need to have. Do you all want to continue this discussion after Isha? Are we too late? Huh? Well, can we, I will offer this, if anybody wants, I'll do an online zakat session on maybe a Sunday afternoon during the month of Ramadan. Right? A Sunday afternoon during the month of Ramadan. No, afternoon. In Ramadan, it'll be hard afternoon. It'll be in the probably morning period. And it'll be more practical on these kind of questions because trust me, 90% of believers don't understand how zakat masail. I mean, 90% is being generous. It's more like 97% of. So many of them actually don't fulfill responsibilities properly and they don't calculate it properly. And you know, when you calculate it properly and you get proper advice, you actually pay a drastic amount less than you would normally pay.
Okay, hold on.
How do you understand? And I'm talking across the board, even billionaires end up paying less money if they calculate it properly. That's how merciful Allah has been.
I want to know what is up. But so exactly all that happens.
Okay, inshallah, we'll close off today now. We are going for Isha and we'll put a notice on the groups. If you're not on the group, do message me. I'll just put my number on the WhatsApp number here on the group chat. So you can message me and I will place you in a group that we will put out announcements so you can see the announcements for this. Farz Salah is now, and it's 7:40.
Yeah.
So that means nobody upstairs. Did it change it?
Maybe 45.
Wala na ang siya.
Okay. Okay.
I think that's 45.
So run it. Should have done it.
45.
Change the time.
Yeah, you do. Mufti Abraar, what were the ahadiths after Isha? How to operate that?
We have to find more the book to be able to do that.
Oh, we could do the one that's all in Surah Bakra. Yeah, I want the need كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب
I can take this one.
على قبلكم لعلكم تتقون.
Ready?
بإذن الله.
I can take this one.
I will see.
It's important to know what's up after the Salah, the start with the Salah. Yes, after. And you know, I feel that. But two things are like that.